Hello, and welcome to this episode of Not Just Ghost Stories. I'm your host, Josh, joined by Jackie and Laura. We are a small team of experienced paranormal investigators, and here we discuss different locations that we've investigated, along with a little history and paranormal evidence that we've found. Today, we will be resuming our conversation on Big Bone and the hunt that we did there. But let's move on, because the next really, really interesting part to me would be the church. Now, the church has a lot of history. There's a lot of stuff that's happening inside that church. There was a team that was there earlier. They're like, there's not a lot happening down there. And then another team that came back and said, you have to go down there. So I remember walking to this church. Now, I'm going to preface by saying it's not the first time I've ever been in that church. I have been in that church before. I have family members that went to that church when it was open. So I kind of already knew the church. However, going into it in that atmosphere under those thoughts brought a total different feeling to the way that church is. Now, Jackie, you've done that church before too on other ghost hunts. And that's why in the history you ended up bringing in the one person that came in, a man named Thomas Jackson. Do you want to talk about that?
Yes, because this was actually, Big Bone was one of my first ghost hunts. I didn't know you could actually go looking for them. I just thought they showed up at your doorstep every once in a while. But so then I found that Big Bone was having a ghost hunt, a public ghost hunt. So I went into the church, and it was me and Tina and two other guys. We went upstairs. Everybody else was down in the church. And wait, let me back that up. All of us went upstairs and we're sitting on these benches. And I sat down on this bench, and I wasn't sitting on the end to where I felt like I was in a cartoon that it was just going to flip up and shoot some person through the window. I wasn't sitting that close to the end. I was sitting actually over the seat, but I kept like holding on to the table because I thought, my God, it's something's wrong with this bench. It's gonna tip up and spill me off or something. So I'm sitting there and I'm thinking about that, and all of a sudden on my right side, down by the lower ribs, it was like somebody put 3 fingers on me, and they did it real slow. The first index finger, middle finger, and then the ring finger on my side, and I felt it, and it was unmistakable. 3 fingers. So I sat there for a second, and then I kind of got up because I thought, I don't think I want to sit here anymore. And I moved away, and the guide is like, are you okay? And I said, I think something just touched me. And he asked about it, and I told and stuff, and it wasn't a bad feeling. It was just like somebody was sitting there, and maybe they thought I was going to fly off too, so they put their arm around me. But everybody went downstairs, and then there was me and 3 other people up there. And there's this one room, and this room had a chair that looks out the window. And I was looking in that room, and I just got the feeling that somebody sits in this window and looks out it, like somebody who's waiting for something, or who doesn't want to be there and wants to go home. I just get that feeling like somebody sits here and dreams of the day that he can leave here or something. And I said, is this where you sit? And I was standing in one doorway. There was another doorway. And you come up the stairs into a room, and then this doorway would go into this room. And I heard, clear as day, 3 footsteps, like come to that doorway. And I stopped, and I turned around, and I asked Tina, I made sure everybody wasn't moving. She was sitting down, and I said, did you hear that? And she said, no. She came to the door, and we heard 3 footsteps going away. From what I got from the feelings and stuff, I think it was that man who died there. And I can see him looking out the window, waiting for the time that he could go home back to his family. And of course, he never made it. So that's why we mentioned him, because he's in that church. And every time I've gone in that church, I've had some sort of interaction with him.
Well, and this night we ended up having an interaction with him. Um, we were leaders of the group. The problem is now the church is starting to get a little bit older, so they warned us about going upstairs. At this church, they kind of didn't want a whole lot of people up there at one time,
So we went.
so we went anyway.
We left our group downstairs.
We did.
We didn't take the group up. We didn't want to endanger them,
We did.
but we went.
Yeah, we're like, guys, just have fun down here. Here's some stuff to play with. We're going upstairs. So we went upstairs and we were going through things, and we ended up getting interactions with him in that room again. Dowsing pendulum was one of the things that he was able to manipulate. Started to get some answers from him. He was not very talkative, but he would sometimes be like, "Okay, I just want you guys to go away," type of thing. is kind of what the feelings I was getting.
We had several other what I consider patients join us too.
Yeah.
I was going to say that for me, the upstairs of the church is where it's at. There's a lot of energies up there.
Yeah, and it
But
Not necessarily all of them that can communicate with you as far as being intelligent, but there's a lot of different things up
no,
in there.
but we also found who we were communicating with, and we said it in the history. At one point, there was a hospital there, and that's who we were communicating with. I think a doctor and several of the patients.
several of the patients that
Yeah.
were there, they were. It seemed, and you can tell the different energies that were coming to you because they all had a different feel. At one point, I actually started to get like almost a sickness to my stomach. Something was going on there, and it was weird. I remember Laura at one point. You were like, I don't know if I could stay up here too long because you were starting to feel kind of weird.
So that was probably Dr. Stephen that you were talking about, Jackie, and then the gentleman that died there was Thomas Jackson.
Yeah.
But as far as when I was needing to leave the room, there's also something in there that's not a deceased soldier or anything. I would just call it an energy, not necessarily good or evil, but I do have a feeling that there was some sort of rituals done up there. Not like demonic rituals. That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying like a group of people attempting to communicate in some way.
The top was Masonic temple.
That would explain it.
And I don't know if you were with me that time. On both sides of the church, there is a little outlet room, like a little room. The one where Thomas or Andrew, whatever his name is, sits and looks out the window, that one's okay. But the one on the other side, I can't stay in that room too much. There's just something really heavy and dark in there. And it's not someplace you want to go in, turn around, and leave. You want to go in and you want to back out.
Yeah. Yep.
Which is, like I said, I've been in that church many times. I'm not going to say hundreds, but many times, with different things, different functions. Even my father's side of the family, they have a connection with Big Bone. They have a family reunion there. It's always, and it's right there below the church too. So when it comes to that church, I've always, growing up, have been around that church. But this was different. Like we said, the first floor, any kind of energy feeling I got on the first floor was normal energy feeling, where you're like, okay, something's kind of just walking around. I feel like it was more like a tape recorder playing. It wasn't, nothing was intelligent there. I don't think too much on the first floor that I found.
Did we, there is a man who sits in the corner, and he's kind of funny. You get the impression that he's there, he's at church, he don't want to be there. He wants to be home watching the game or something. So he sits back in the corner and he's kind of grumpy, and he will manipulate a dowsing pendulum, but when he's done, we've had him rip it out of people's hands.
So, but that second floor, walking around, talking to whoever or whatever that we were talking to up there, was just a total different feeling. The dark thing that Jackie and Laura were both talking about, I felt that too, and it was It made my heart race. I'm not going to say it was scary because it wasn't scary to me, but it made my heart race and almost kind of made you go tilt your head and go, what exactly am I dealing with? So, I mean, there's some pretty cool stuff happening in just that little church alone.
We can look into it. I'm not real familiar with them, but PK manifestations. Because if you think about it, you had all those sick people, all that illness, and what comes with it. Can I go see my family? Am I going to make it home? What happens if I don't make it home? You have all that emotion, and as we get rid of it and stuff, it can form like an energy cloud, which isn't interactive, isn't alive, but can affect people that, are used to reading the energy of the room. So I often wonder, was it a PK manifestation?
Well, and I mean, we have other places that we'll end up talking about, but we've ran into that before. And now I'm kind of thinking back, Rhodes Hotel.
Yeah.
It has one, and now kind of thinking back, it's possible because it's almost the same type of feeling I was having. So, and the one at Rhodes, I was under a sensory deprivation there.
Well, and also in the downstairs room where it would allow Laura in, but you and I, when we walked in that room, it was a definite get out.
Well, and that's where we started to have that. It kind of like traveled around, which was weird. But we'll get to that on another episode. But this one here, now that I'm kind of thinking back to it, it almost may be some type of PK manifestation in order to, I don't know, maybe keep the energy. I don't know why it would still be there.
Yeah, you'd often wonder that it would dissipate, but maybe it's just so strong, and so because technically the people are still there, some of those people that release that energy are still there. So is there still a tie to them, or?
I mean,
all I know is there's a lot of energies in that room.
And now I'm just sitting here talking about it. I want to go back and check it out some more.
I was going to say, even probably 10 minutes ago, I would love to investigate that one more because, we did make it quick, because we left the people we were supposed to be watching. So we knew we were on a time frame, and it was just, we at least wanted to know I wanted to know what it felt like. I'd never been there before. But it does, I'd like to go back. And the first time we went up there, I was kind of new too. So I'd like to try again with now having experience.
And I think we should let all our listeners know that as tour guides, we suck because we left our group the second time because before I went down there, I had my crystal ball had told me, go down the path and talk with the Indians. So while our group had joined up with the main group and they all headed to the cemetery, the three of us took off and left them again and went down the walking path. And
well, let's get to that because we did it again because we had it. We're like, oh, we got to go back, but we went down at the end of the night. And this we'll get to on the next episode. But I have an issue with Indians. Let's just start it with that. We started realizing it at the Blue House in Warsaw. And then it just kind of bubbled over from there. So like I said, we'll kind of get more into it, but Jackie said that we had to go down the path. That I had to go down the path. Laura had to go down the path. Jackie had to go down the path so we can go down there and talk with them.
We did take one of our people from our group. He didn't want to go, but we forced him to.
Yeah, we did. And
like I say, if you ever do a public ghost hunt with us, you're going to get a lot of excitement, but we suck as tourists.
Well, and at the same time, if we tell you to do something, you're not going to argue with us because we're going to make you do it.
And the poor guy was terrified by the time we were coming out of there. I mean, he was just... you almost had to walk him with him in the middle of a circle or a triangle of us.
Well, hey, we gave him a whole bunch of crystals and stuff.
We did.
We had him protected.
Well, and at the same point, at one point he stopped on the path and said, I think we should go back. We need to go back. We have to go back. And we just kept moving forward.
Because we knew he wasn't going to go back on his own.
Yeah.
This is not a lit path.
No, it's completely dark down there. It is in the woods, right
And
next
we
to the
were
creek.
actually being stalked by Indians.
Me in particular, I think was being stalked. You guys were being stalked because you were with me, and actually you guys were kind of protecting me at the same time. Now we ended up at they have like this kind of walkover thing that kind of goes over this swamp area that
It
where
was
the salt
the
springs
salt,
are at.
yeah.
Where the salt springs are at. And because of it, I was major headache. It was not good. Ended up doing a bunch of different things. Jackie was getting visions. Laura, Jackie, do you want to tell her because you tell it better?
So I'm standing next to Josh, basically telling these Indians, no, I cannot let you kill him.
Yeah.
And knowing that there's Indians, I know on the path is asphalt at that point. If we stay on the path, for some reason, they won't come on the path. But I'm still having to talk them out of, I can't let you kill him. And his wife's over there, and she's not going to let you kill him. And I look, and Laura is off the path going through the woods to confront these Indians. And I'm like, Laura, get back here.
Well,
So-
they made her angry.
Yeah.
And she was going to try to go after them. We don't know what she would have tried to do when she got there because I don't
Because we don't know how to kill dead people.
Well, especially being outside, I don't have a lot of sense on preservation outside. It's always been that way. I guess that's where I'm pull energy from. So while I may be afraid to walk through a dark house by myself, the woods filled with people who would like to kill my husband that luckily are dead and can only do so much. Didn't bother me in the least.
But all I can remember is Jackie turning around going, Laura, what are you doing? Get back on the path. Get out of the woods. And she's like, I'm going to get him. And you're like, how? You can't
Yeah,
do
what are you gonna do to
anything. So that's just kind of a little snippet of what's going on. But we ended up going down there and confronting some stuff and trying to start to figure out some things. And freaking out a dude while we're doing it was actually kind of fun. He was freaked out by the time we got down to that little bridge walkover for the salt springs, not knowing exactly what's going on. At one point, I think he was literally standing between Jackie and I because we were both arguing. I was actually starting to shut down because I was hurting so bad in my head. And the guy was like, are you okay? What can I do? And I'm just like, get away type of thing. Yeah, it was a little bit of a crazy ending to a very amazing night to me.
But I got to say, when we got back and I told everybody, going down there, I had maybe stepped off the path every once in a while to kind of watch these Indians' spirits moving through the forest and stuff. On the way back, since Josh and Laura had pissed them off, we didn't get off the path. And the Indians they could have put on a wonderful show. I wasn't getting off the path. But by the time we got back, I think the guy felt better that he had confronted it and he had lived.
Yeah.
Or he felt better that he found people that were stupider than he was.
Yeah, I think probably by the end of it, he was probably thinking that was a great experience.
No, I'm gonna have to differ with you.
No, I'm going to keep telling myself he had a great time.
I think he was like, oh man, these people are stupid. I should have never followed them. But no, the shadow figures that happened in the woods down there, and honestly, Laura and I, we've hiked down there, just hiked some of the trails, gone down and seen the buffaloes, or bison, whatever you want to call them. And other things. There is so much stuff that happens in those woods during the daytime, nighttime. I mean, any time of day, you can just sit there, stand in the middle of them, and something's happening around you because there's so much history on that property.
And that's what it feels like. It actually feels like you are standing there in the middle of a history book, only you're not reading about it. It is happening around you.
Yeah.
I don't know if maybe it's from those salt springs, but it's literally like there's different time eras that are trapped there, and they're in layers, because if you think about it, when you are dealing with those Indians, none of the other things come across. It's got to be layered there, and so therefore, in my opinion, there has to be something about the whole area that is trapping all those
Well,
generational eras together.
yeah. Well, I've never been to Gettysburg. I have talked to quite a few people that have done investigations at Gettysburg and talked to different things, and actually a guy who wrote books about Gettysburg and things that he's seen and how much layered there is at just Gettysburg. Now, we're taking something that's on a large tract of land like Gettysburg that has more history than what Gettysburg has.
Right. Didn't start with the wars.
Yeah, and it started long before that. So to me, I'm almost thinking maybe it's a lot like Gettysburg. There are things that happen there. I mean, there have been reports of people actually seeing an Indian walking into the woods thinking that it was an actor. And I'll tell you, was it once a year in August of every single year, they have the Salt Lick Festival. Now
If you're around here, you should go to it. It's very interesting.
It's very interesting. It's fun. They have a lot of different things. You learn a lot of different history about the area. They actually have people that are dressed up like Indians and people that are dressed up like pioneers and everything else throughout that. And you get to learn all of this stuff.
They have interactive crafts for kids and things as well during that time.
But during that, you're going to see somebody dressed up in what they would consider Indian garb. This was not anywhere near during that time. This was months earlier, months later after the Salt Lake Festival, and people are seeing them walking through the woods. They're seeing hunters and trappers walking through the woods or walking down a path or anything else like that. So the history alone is just something crazy overall.
Yeah, sometimes a ghost hunt's like riding an elevator. You know, the door opens and you're on floor 1, and then the door closes, opens again, you're on the 3rd floor. So maybe on floor 1 is the janitor's office, and on the 3rd floor is the doctor's office. That's kind of what ghost hunting is like. You're going through the layers and stuff. Because we went from there up to the cemetery to pick up our group. And totally different at the cemetery. It was all about the bakers and stuff up there, all the spirits that we saw up there.
And I would guarantee you just about anywhere where there's been a spring that was there prior to 1700 that's still currently there. So that land has been occupied all that time. So there's got to be other places that are like that. And I bet they fall the same way. I bet they're layered as well.
Yeah, I would guarantee. All right. Any last words on Big Bone?
No, but if you're in the area, keep an eye on the calendar. They have been having public ghost hunts probably about 4 or 5 times during the summer, and it's well worth going to. And maybe, if you're lucky, we'll be your tour guides.
Yeah, or unlucky, depending on how you do it.
If you tell us that you listened when we go to the really cool places, we won't leave you. We'll take you with us.
Yeah, contact us, and if you're actually wondering when it's going to happen, we can let you know that too. We'll get the information to you in case it's something you would like to try out, and maybe you get to meet us and hang out with us. And you just got to be careful. We are crazy. We are paranormal investigators.
We're badasses.
We're badasses. We're not afraid to say it. Well, on that note, this has been Not Just Ghost Stories. We have been your hosts, Josh,
Laura,
and Jackie.
And until next time, you can find information and contact us on our website at notjustghoststories.com and see evidence that we've discussed on Facebook at Not Just Ghost Stories. Thanks.